Please rise for the posting of colors and Pledge of Allegiance. The colors will be posted by the Wausau Fire Department Honor Guard. Uniformed personnel should salute during the pledge, and others in attendance should place their hand over their heart. After the pledge, please remain standing for the invocation. Please post the colors.
Come. Ready. Fight. Freeze and forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Move. Ready. Fight. Forward. Forward.
At this time, I'd like to welcome Wausau Fire Chaplain Sheldon Miles to give the invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day and what it represents for the city of Wausau. We thank you for this servant leader who has been chosen to serve this community in this way. Thank you for his servant's heart. And I pray that you would just instill within him the heart of a servant leader. Lord, your word directs us and tells us that if we want to be great leaders, we must first learn how to serve. And we thank you that you set that model for us and that you came and you served us. Lord, I ask that you would give Chief both wisdom and courage as he pursues these values of professionalism, integrity, accountability, respect, and compassion. I pray that each and every day that he would arise, that he would ask for your strength and your leadership, that you would be the leader of his life. Lord, I thank you for the men and women who serve this community as the vanguards of this community. And I pray for each and every one of them, those who are currently serving and those who have already served. I pray blessings and favor on their lives. And so, Lord, we invite your presence to be here in this ceremony. We pray that your voice would be the loudest voice in this room, we pray. Amen.
Please grab a seat and make yourselves comfortable. Good evening. My name is Ben Bliven. I currently serve as the Chief of Police here in the city of Wausau. It's my pleasure to be here and be your MC for tonight. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate and affirm the selection of our new Wausau Fire Chief, Bob Barteck. Before we get to Chief Barteck, I'd like to acknowledge the fantastic Wausau Fire Department Honor Guard team. The members of the Honor Guard are firefighter-paramedic Jake DeClerc, Engineer Shane Wohler, Lieutenant Matt Brockman, Lieutenant Quinn Ambrosius, and retired Lieutenant Steve Barr. And it was a great touch added to the ceremony with one of our local bagpipers, Ed Giambardo. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your talents with us. I want to tell you a little bit about Chief Barteck because I'm relatively confident when he gets the opportunity to speak, he's not going to say anything about himself. So I want to talk about some of his accomplishments and his credentials that qualify him to be the fire chief here in Wausau. The first time I met Bob was when he gave his final interview to become the deputy chief here in Wausau. That was about 3 years ago. For those of you that don't know, Bob spent about 25 years with the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department before coming to Wausau. As I sat there listening to Bob's interview, I was astonished at his passion for the fire service and his depth of knowledge about leadership. And I probably participated in a couple thousand interviews in my tenure in the police department. And there's only one other interview that was better than Bob's deputy chief interview, and that was his interview for fire chief. He's just a fantastic individual, and we're happy to have him, and we're blessed to have him in this position. To give you a small glimpse into the interviews, let me tell you about his credentials. He served in the fire service since 1990, when he started out as a volunteer firefighter and EMT basic with his hometown department of Owen Withee. That's where his dad, Noel, served as a volunteer firefighter while Bob was growing up. He spent 25 years with Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department, last serving as a deputy fire chief before coming here to Wausau in 2019. And it speaks to Bob's character and leadership that we have some members of Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department here to celebrate with us tonight. From 2012 until 2020, Bob served on the Wisconsin One Disaster Medical Assistant Team, also known as DMAT, with the National Disaster Medical System. When he retired from this team, he was the deputy team commander, and he was second in command of an 85-person federal disaster medical team. He deployed and served for multiple federally declared disasters and national security events. In one such deployment, Chief Barteck went to Houston to help with the disaster response after Hurricane Harvey, and he worked there as a paramedic. There, he worked at the George Brown Convention Center, which had as many as 13,000 displaced Houston residents. They treated 346 people in the first 24 hours. That included everything from gunshot wounds to skin infections caused by the floodwater. A few weeks after, Chief Barteck was deployed to Puerto Rico, where he served as the operations section chief in San Juan. A few days into the deployment, he was suddenly reassigned to the lead task force on a mission. His team was comprised of 43 civilian doctors and nurses from New York City. They were tasked with taking over DMAT operations in a hospital parking lot to make sure everyone who needed medical care received it, as the hospital was unable to keep up with the demand. Chief Barteck called this a life-altering experience. Most recently, Chief Barteck has achieved the credential of Chief Fire Officer. He also completed the Executive Fire Officer program through the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. The Executive Fire Officer program takes 4 years to complete and requires a number of master's thesis papers to complete the program. That EFO program helped Chief Barteck achieve the credential of Chief Fire Officer through the Center for Public Service Excellence. He is the first Wausau Fire Chief to attain this prestigious certification. There are only 1,554 chief fire officers in the world, and only 18 in the state of Wisconsin. Standing here before you, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Jeremy Kopp and his leadership with the Wausau Fire Department. Many of you know Jeremy, and he was a close runner-up to Chief Barteck in the recent chief promotional process. Jeremy was appointed to deputy chief by the Police and Fire Commission just last week. Wausau is incredibly blessed to have Bob and Jeremy leading this department. And retired Chief Tracy Kajawa has set Wausau Fire up for success with her leadership here in Wausau. I continue to be impressed with the caliber of people within the Wausau Fire Department. They do work that is both extremely challenging and extremely important here in our community. I'm confident the professionalism and the commitment to service within Wausau Fire will continue to be a bright spot in the city of Wausau for years to come. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker of the night, a man of great character in his own right. Michael Loy currently serves as a police and fire commissioner here in Wausau, and he was the PFC president during the chief selection process for Wausau Fire. Interestingly, he also assisted in the selection of our last fire chief when he worked as the City of Wausau Human Resources Director. Michael is an example for all of us to follow in his zeal to serve the community in many different roles. It is my pleasure to introduce Police and Fire Commissioner Michael Loy.
Good evening, everybody. It's a distinct honor for me to be here to celebrate the installment of Fire Chief Robert Barteck. As Ben alluded to, it was nearly over 7 years ago when we were in this room installing our last chief, Chief Kajawa. At that time, it was a great call for change in the Wausau Fire Department, and I don't know the full history of installing fire chiefs in the city of Wausau, but we thought it was very important to have an event like this, to celebrate days like this in a community of ours. So I'm very happy that our current mayor has chosen to do this as well, and that our police chief, in showing great partnership between both police and fire, has helped lead the way for this evening as well. I stand here tonight on behalf of the Police and Fire Commission as the president of the commission during the time in which we interviewed candidates for the fire chief position over the last year. A little bit later tonight, you'll hear from William Harris, who is our vice chair and is our current chair and president of the Wausau Police and Fire Commission, and I'm confident he's going to do an exceptional job for our community in that role. The other three commissioners that were a part of this process are Kathy Strasser, Bill Groff, and Cheryl Barr. All of the commissioners were deeply invested in a successful outcome, which included sitting with all of the crews to get their input into what they wanted to see in their next fire chief. We listened, we reflected, we spent a number of days in interviews, and we're very happy to arrive in the appointment of Chief Barteck, who was clearly exceptional. I want to talk a little bit about the process for us to get here. I alluded to the interviews with the crews that we started with. That is something we've done 2 times now in this process, and I think it is incredibly insightful. At that point, we posted applications for a nationwide search for the fire chief position. Now, Deputy Chief at the time, Barteck, was coming to Wausau with the opportunity, and he had proven himself to be a great candidate for a fire chief. But we felt the best thing for us to do as a community and for our department was to test him against anybody that was willing to run against him. And he proved himself through that process incredibly. So throughout the process, we had a number of different interviews with different stakeholders, and in our final interview, we had a 2-hour grueling event where we had the candidates present. They had wrote a paper prior to, and then we had done some interview questions. And again, clearly, Bob was our guy. So very happy to get where we are today. I talked about the ideal process, or the ideal candidate from our listening sessions, and I want Bob to hear these tonight again, and any day throughout his tenure to remember what it is that his crews need from him and are looking for him to do. We are seeking an individual who will continue to raise the profile and reputation of Wausau Fire Department, especially as required to attract the necessary talent. A career professional who has risen through the ranks. Paramedic experience is extremely important. Supports the strategic direction of the Wausau Fire Department, especially as it relates to accreditation. Excellent communicator, relatable, especially with staff, with an ability to know and care for each member of the Wausau Fire Department. High integrity, a keeper of accountability, ideally from and respected within the state of Wisconsin, has excellent labor relations tact and experience with an open door approach. I'll give you those, and if you live by those, you will serve not only our department but our community well in your tenure. Lastly, I just want to speak about Bob's appointment day. It came after the interviews, and that was intentional. And unfortunately, I was not able to be at that day where the appointment was made. It was a quick process with the commission voting unanimously, and the mic was turned over to Bob. If you didn't know this, the city of Wausau records all of its public meetings. I wasn't there, but I've watched that video several times. Bob's comments, and if you ever have a doubt about the integrity of the man that we're installing today or what he is going to accomplish or his passion for the job, watch those statements that he gave that evening. It was incredible. It made the commission look good in our decision, and I deeply respect you for everything that you said. In those crew interviews, the number one thing that we heard was staffing, staffing, staffing. We need to address staffing. If you watch the video that I just referred to, in there Bob will tell his story that we heard on another occasion during the interview process about the day he decided to be a firefighter. The day he decided to be a firefighter, he just happened to stop by Station 1 here in Wausau and talk to one of the career department leaders there on duty for that day about what it's like to be a firefighter and what it's like to work for the Wausau Fire Department. That day is what influenced Bob's career decision. As we look at the world today where there's help wanted and hiring signs everywhere, the competition for talent is incredible. Truly, this is going to be your greatest challenge. And the number one thing we said is we're looking for somebody to raise the profile and reputation of the department because that matters. It matters from the top, and it matters throughout the department. The pride in what you do every day needs to be felt and shared with our community to inspire young men and women to join the fire service. It's more important than it has ever been. The same is true in policing. And the job of the firefighter isn't what it was when Bob stopped at Station 1. The job of a firefighter requires the individual to know the streets of Wausau, which is not easy. It requires them to understand both residential and commercial properties and how to attack fires successfully. A number of other complicated rescue type missions they have to train for. And above all else, and the majority of what most firefighters do today is paramedic work, which the life-saving measures and the training that we provide here in this community is exceptional and second to none in the state, in my opinion. We are truly blessed, but that requires individuals in this community that want to be in the fire service, to want to work for a great fire department, to put in the necessary work, and to be revered as public servants. And I think that is our opportunity as a community here today, is to celebrate our public servant who is going to lead this department, but also to continue to have reverence for the profession that is firefighting here in our community, and hope that today is the next step in the next chapter in a very bright future for the Wausau Fire Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. You talked about the partnership between the police department and the fire department. As proof of that partnership, we're giving the fire department 15 minutes before we start ticketing for those parking violations out on the street. So, just kidding. We'll give you 20. We'll give you 20. Our next speaker, many of you will know, as long as you are on Twitter. Okay, just kidding. Well, kind of, I guess. Kind of kidding. Mayor Katie Rosenberg has served as Wausau's mayor since April of 2020. She's always been an ardent supporter of both the police and fire departments, and our city is better because of her support. I'm happy to introduce Mayor Katie Rosenberg.
Thank you. Man, I just want to respond to every single one of these speakers, and I'm really excited to hear from you, Chief. But congratulations, Wausau Fire Chief Robert Barteck. Installing a new fire chief is kind of a big deal here, and I'm so excited and proud to be even a small part of this process. So I had the opportunity to interview all of the candidates who made it past the initial screening process, and Chief Barteck was an exceptional candidate. And actually, I don't even think I mean that word exceptional. It's not what I'm looking for. He was so well prepared. He had a dozen plans ready to share. He advocated for the department. He talked about the challenges ahead and how he would address them. And he even came armed with stats to back up his claim. I mean, he was like a bullet out of a gun in that interview. And I'm so excited that you're on our team. But more than exceptional, he's basically the Simone Biles of police fire chiefing. So he's only going to get better in the coming years. So ready for that goal. So my first month on the job, then Fire Chief Tracy Kajawa scheduled a meeting with me. And when she showed up, I was outnumbered by her and Deputy Chief Barteck and EMS Division Chief Jared Thompson. But by the time they left, Barteck had told me all about the amazing responsibility I have as an elected official as part of a large emergency response. He also maybe terrified me a little bit, but I know that I have the stuff that I need because he pointed me to the state and federal trainings, and he definitely got me thinking more about how we can plan better. And he's actually the reason we have a couple of fancy new agreements with our surrounding municipalities, giving us better regional coverage overall. Because that's the kind of leader that Chief Barteck is. He levels everyone around him up. In the last few months, he received his Fire Chief Officer designation from the Center for Public Excellence. We probably should have talked about what we wanted to talk about, so we're not, but this is worth mentioning over and over and over again. He's one of only 1,546 worldwide to earn this prestigious designation. And he did all of that work as deputy chief on the weekends and while he was serving, so simply amazing. And in preparation for tonight's swearing in, I actually pulled out the letter that I wrote about the chief when he was deputy chief last year for that chief fire officer designation application. And actually, I'm just going to read it because I think it speaks exactly to what we're looking for the future of leadership here. So it says, Dear Center for Public Safety Excellence Administrators, I'm writing to you today to enthusiastically recommend that you recognize Wausau Fire Department's Chief Deputy Robert Barteck with the status of Chief Fire Officer. During my tenure as mayor of the city of Wausau, I have seen the deputy chief's leadership and drive for excellence on display over and over again. But even more important, his team, his peers, and our city have benefited from this effort. If there is even a whisper of an emergency in our city, the deputy chief reaches out to alert me that his team is already on the job and help me work through my own communications about this incident. Deputy Chief Barteck's determination for continuous improvement has helped the city capitalize on more meaningful partnerships with other community organizations. In 2021, the city will embark on hazmat and emergency management partnerships with Marathon County that will keep our communities safer and save taxpayer resources in the process. He has the leadership command role at large-scale incidents. Not only is it important to have a skilled communicator on the scene to work with his teams, but he's also skilled in talking to the media and sharing information on social media and earned platforms. Deputy Chief Barteck not only understands the importance of those skills, but he owns them. The Deputy Chief's communication style and acumen has helped bring our policy body along as well. His presentations at the Wausau City Council's Finance Committee, Public Health and Safety Committee, and at City Council meetings have helped our elected leaders understand the fire department's role and better and elevated their view of our critical services. I'm sure you've already gathered from working with Deputy Chief Barteck in his program, but I know from personal experience through the last year that he is an excellent leader, a thorough investigator, and a thoughtful communicator. I'm lucky to count the Deputy Chief among our star employees, and I'm so excited for what the future will bring. And you know what? The future certainly didn't wait too long to reveal itself to us, and I'm so glad. Chief Barteck comes from a central Wisconsin fire family, and you can tell that he's carried those ethics through his entire life. And we're just the latest in a long line of beneficiaries of those ethics. Over the past month, I've had the pleasure of receiving countless emails and notes and calls from his former colleagues since that appointment. And I'm just going to share a couple of comments of what they had to say, because this is the kind of person that we have leading our fire department. I would like to convey to you that the City of Wausau's selection of Bob Barteck for the position of fire chief was a perfect one. I was fortunate to have Bob on my crew. He was my go-to person no matter what the emergency was, and grateful he was there. His thought process for preparing and executing fire, ground, and emergency medical operations was impeccable. Bob's outstanding resume shows the professionalism and dedication he has built to be fire chief. As part of Bob that will not show on his resume is his heart. He is one of the most caring individuals that I know. He puts his family, career, and friends before anything else. You can rest assured that Bob will never let you, the Wausau Fire Department, and the City of Wausau down. I can guarantee that. Here's another one. Congrats on the appointment of Chief Barteck. I had the pleasure of working with Bob at the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department until my retirement in 2005. He should have gotten that chief job a few years ago, but our loss is your gain. He's eminently qualified and a great person. Please pass my congratulations on to him when you see him. Congratulations. And a month ago, actually, when my own family had a major emergency, one of the very first people that reached out to me to reassure me that everything was going to be okay was Bob. He texted me and he just said, "Yep, I totally get it. It's hard to see someone you love so much hurting. It's why I've dedicated my whole life to serving others." Whoa, I didn't know I was gonna get emotional right now. Whew. Wausau, I hope you know that we made an excellent choice last month. Thank you to the Police and Fire Commission's leadership. Thank you to the employees who served in that initial interview panel. Thank you to HR Director Tony Vanderboom for sealing the deal. And thank you especially to Bob, Chief Barteck, for dedicating your life to service and leadership. Congratulations to all of us. Let's get at it.
Thank you, Mayor. Well done. I agree with everything you said. Yeah, you're the mayor, I have to say that. All right, now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening's program. Mila Mitchell is a 25-year veteran firefighter, currently serving as a lieutenant with the City of Madison Fire Department. In addition, he serves as president of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin, as well as local president of International Association of Firefighters Local 311, his home local. When the fight over collective bargaining and Scott Walker's Act 10 law began in 2011, Malin led the firefighters in a monumental stand of solidarity with other public servants. Despite being exempted from the bill, Malin and his fellow firefighters marched on the Capitol with fellow working families who were threatened by the budget repair bill. He has toured the country speaking about workers' rights, working families, and the labor movement. Despite the divisive political atmosphere in the state capitol, Malin has been instrumental in getting two very important pieces of legislation for firefighters, EMTs, and first responders signed into law. In 2017, the Community Paramedics Bill was signed into law by then Governor Walker, and in 2021, the PTSD bill was signed into law by Governor Evers. It's my pleasure to introduce Mila Mitchell.
How we doing? Well, I got to tell you, I've been to a lot of memorials and a lot of installation of officers for union members and a lot of celebrations. Now, this is supposed to be a celebration, so I'll say it one more time. How we doing? That's better. My name is Mila Mitchell. I thank you for the introduction. Thanks for saying it just how we wrote it. Appreciate that. I never know what she sends over when there's going to be an introduction, but that was a nice short one, though, so that was good. But my name is Mila Mitchell, and as the chief said, I've been a firefighter with the city of Madison for 25 plus years now. I was fortunate enough to get hired at the ripe age of 19, so I still currently serve on a job, still an active duty member. I'm a lieutenant at our downtown station, right downtown Madison. If any of you have been to State Street, we're right around the corner from State Street and Dayton Street. So if you're ever there, stop in. I also had the ability to serve as the president of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin. We serve locals like our great local here, 415 in Wausau. And my job, the chaplain talked about servant leadership. My job is to serve the 4,000 plus members across the 71 counties that we represent here in Wisconsin, over 100 communities. So I have the pleasure of doing that. I also have the pleasure of being my local president. We have 500 plus members in Madison proper, and then we have 400 members in Madison proper, 100 members that are contiguous to Madison. So we have a local that serves the entire county. And I've been doing that since 2014. So I stay pretty busy with that. But I want to tell you, I've had the pleasure of knowing your new fire chief for a while now. You were teaching up at Volkfield, and I was learning. And that was many, many years ago before he was chief of anything, I believe, or union president or anything even maybe. And I was just probably an apparatus engineer or driver in Madison and Station 1. So we've known each other for a while. So when I got the call and I asked to come up here, after talking with the local president, Brother Bingham, I said, for sure, I'll be there. Because I think it's important that we connect in the fire service and that we work together when we can and we collaborate when we can. So thank you, Chief, for the invite. Thank you, Mayor, for your great remarks, also for the invite. Thank you, Chief. How did I say it? Bliven? It's a great thing to have the police chief introduce the fire chief and him to say good things about you. You don't see that in a lot of places, so I'll give you guys credit for that. But before we get officially started, believe it or not, I haven't even started yet. And I'm not going to talk that long, I promise. But why don't everyone name Mike? If your name is Mike, please stand up. I didn't say sit down yet. So if your name is Mike, please stand up. There's only one mic in here. All right, you can sit down now. That will conclude my mic check. It's going to get better, I think. So when they first told me to come speak, they originally told me 10 to 15 minutes. So I only wrote about 10 minutes down. So I'm not going to be up here a long time. Matter of fact, like Kim Kardashian probably told Kanye West, I won't keep you long. It's just a tough crowd out here, man. Holy shnikes. Anyway, fire chief. It's a job that requires vision, will, and skill. You know, I just had a meeting last week with 10 retirees from Madison Fire Department and some of the surrounding communities. And I asked them, I always ask retirees, do you miss the job? Do you miss coming to work every day? Do you miss going to the station? Do you miss going on calls? And 9 times out of 10, every retiree will say, well, I don't miss the circus, but I miss the clowns, meaning that they miss the people. So it got me thinking, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and I get an opportunity to talk in front of a lot of crowds like yourselves. And when we talk about the fire service and what the fire service means to all of us, I have an older brother that's a firefighter down in Atlanta, Georgia, and my younger brother's a firefighter up in St. Paul, Minnesota. So firefighting and being a career firefighter is in our blood. But what is this job really about? And if you talk to retirees, and if you think about it right now, all those that are actually on duty and still on the job, this job is about the people. It's about the people that we serve in the community. It's about the people and our brothers and sisters that we're on the front lines with every day in the firehouses and on the rigs. But it's also about the people that we go home to, our families and our loved ones. So this job is definitely about people, because we have a personal responsibility as public servants to take care of people. Now, this may be a stretch, but bear with me. And if I'm talking fast, it could be because you're listening slow. But I promise, I hope that this will make sense by the time I'm done talking. But there was a confession, so to speak, a seance, a letter that was written by, in 1946 by a German Lutheran pastor named Martin Niemöller. And most of you have probably heard it, have heard the saying. But it was about the cowardice of the German intellects to stand up against the Nazi regime, and why they didn't stand up when it was time to stand up. And it goes like this, and I quote, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not stand up because I am not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not stand up because I am not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not stand up because I am not a Jew. But then they came for me. And you know what? There was no one left to stand up for me." So how do we correlate that to the fire service? Well, we cannot be complicit in what we do. Our job, again, is about serving the community. I read, while I was sitting over there, read your vision statement, read your mission statement as well. And it's got riddled all throughout it, the community, how we will change and be part of helping the community. It's all over your mission statement. And I believe that. And I believe that's of the utmost importance. I also believe that this job is not just a job. This career is not just a career path. I actually believe that this job is a calling. It's a calling for those that want to serve, and at times, unfortunately, put their life on the line and make the ultimate sacrifice. Yes, we get paychecks. You know, I'm a union president and state president, and we bargain contracts all over the state and help backfill our locals for hours, wages, working conditions with our cities and with our employer. But this job for a lot of us, and hopefully most of us, is about more than just a paycheck. I actually asked those lights and sirens to go by when I was speaking, so thank you guys for that. See, I believe that we're actually here to make things better. Not just on the job, but off the job as well. So what is our organizational culture? What is the culture that we have as a person? What is the culture that we have to serve our communities? What is the culture that we have here at the Wausau Fire Department? Well, that's not for me, obviously, to say. That's why you have a new fire chief. I believe if we're here for a paycheck, you're here just to put your time in, go home, hopefully get your 30 years on, retire at 53, you're missing out on life. You're missing out on true vision and the passion of this great job. You know, the oath you're going to take tonight, Chief, and the oath that we all take that are sworn-in members of the fire department or the police department, we all raise our right hand, and we all do it, and we do it when we get promoted again. We say that we will protect life and property. We will pledge to carry out the duties respectfully. We will honor and respect the mission, goals, and purpose, in this case of the Wausau Fire Department. And all those things are important. And I'm not trying to minimize any of that because the oath is very, very important. But what is an oath if we take it, we have it read to us, we raise our right hand, and that's it? Some of us have in our offices on the wall, but what are we really doing with that oath? And are we actually taking that oath seriously, meaning not just raising our right hand today, but making sure we're out there on the street, that we're living and abiding by that oath and taking care, in my opinion, of our communities. That will enhance the oath. That will enhance what we do in our jobs, and that will enhance our communities. We have to have people on this job that wants to see our communities outside of the emergency. Martin Luther King said it best, in my opinion. He said, and I quote, "I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 square meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and justice for their spirits," unquote. So you may be saying to me, Malin, what the hell does that have to do with the fire service? Well, in my opinion, everything. One of the first things I did when I became state president of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin in 2011, we were under turmoil. We had a lot of internal conflict, and then we had a governor that wasn't necessarily all in line with union rights or labor rights. So we had a lot going on, a lot to deal with, internally and externally. But the first thing we did was we stopped all the noise. We got together with our local officers at the time. We got 60 locals in the state, got together, and we did a very, very simple exercise, a SWOT-C analysis. We all probably see it at our jobs, and we probably see it at the departments, but it makes you want to roll your eyes at times when you hear it, but it's very simple. A SWOT-C analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, constraints. And we looked at our organization internally and out, and we realized that we need to do more outside of the emergency, that we need to do more than just respond to fires and also backfill our locals when they need help with bargaining, grievances, arbitration. But let's actually get out there and be part of something bigger than ourselves, something more than just the fire service. So we did that. And we put together a working plan in 2013. And that working plan has now come to fruition, and we have a statewide charitable foundation that any one of our locals can use. We give money, we have boots on the grounds, not just for firefighters issues, but issues that affect every community, every race, every culture, every creed. You get my drift. Because when we're at the firehouse, and if any of these gentlemen and young ladies get a call tonight, we don't call and ask, well, are you Republican or Democrat? We don't call and ask, well, are you black and white? Or are you Catholic? We respond because the need is there. And the need will always be there. And when that tone or bell goes off, we will always be there ready to equip to respond to our community. And we can do that on and off the job. Because see, as firefighters and paramedics, we respond to our communities on the worst days of their lives. And when they're at their worst, we have to be at our best. So how do we stay at our best? We take care of our people. We take care of the people that we serve in the community. We take care of each other, our brothers and sisters, firefighters, when it comes to PTSD issues and other issues. We see something, we say something, we help each other out. And we take care of our families back at home. So I say to you, Chief, in closing, you're the #1 person in Wausau to help take care of our people. When they're hurting, they need the tools and equipment that we need to do our jobs. That's your job to work with the union, as you know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, to work with the union to make sure we get the things that we need to do our jobs. To you, Mayor, who I hear that you're a rock star, not just on Twitter, but in life, that's what I hear. But just think, every firefighter or police officer that's in this crowd or on this dais would put their lives on the line for the members of your community, in our community. So I ask that you take care of our members, because they will take care of you. And to my brothers and sisters in fire, in the back, and all of you here in the great community of Wausau, we cannot waver from our mission, brothers and sisters. We cannot waver from our vision, because one day we will be old. You will be frail, and you will be slower. And someone will come up to you and ask, what did you do in your day when you were young, when you were strong, when you were fast and fit? And you will tell them you were a firefighter. And once the page is turned and the day is done, that will be enough. But don't let that be enough. Take it a step further. And let's get out there, not just respond to calls or just save lives, which is a big deal, but let's change lives while we're doing that. So I say to you, brothers and sisters, keep up your calling, keep up your work. We are all part of something bigger than ourselves in the fire service. Don't let the pressure outweigh the pleasure. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay ready for the people. Thank you all.
Well, that's why you're the keynote speaker. That was outstanding. Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell, for your message. And it's almost like, I know it was closed session when Chief Barteck was interviewing for these positions, but so much of what you talked about is what Bob Barteck talks about when he wants to be chief. Well, that's clear, although I do think I remember you saying that he was the teacher. You were the student, but that's all good. All right, well, we're here to celebrate Bob and watch him get sworn in, and the time has come. I'd like to introduce Wausau City Clerk Leslie Kramer, who will officially swear in Chief Robert Barteck.
All right, Chief Barteck. I'm going to ask you to please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Robert Barteck,
I, Robert Barteck,
who have been appointed to the office of Fire Chief
who have been appointed to the office of Fire Chief
with the Wausau Fire Department
with the Wausau Fire Department
in and for the city of Wausau
in and for the city of Wausau
in Marathon County,
and Marathon County,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered into the duties thereof,
swear or affirm
swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of this office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
of this office to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Awesome. We will have you sign the oath then. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have some more pomp and circumstance for tonight. Now that Chief Barteck has been sworn in, it's time for the pinning of his badge. Bob's parents, Noel and Elaine Barteck, are here to do that honor. Both Mr. and Mrs. Barteck were teachers in the Owen community where Bob was raised. They instilled in Bob the value of character, education, and service to community. I've heard Bob tell the story of his dad's involvement in the Owen Withy Curtis Fire Department that ultimately motivated him to a career in the fire service. His dad has served there for over 4 decades. Noel and Elaine Barteck, please pin the Chief's badge on your son, Bob. Now I'll introduce Police and Fire Commissioner William Harris, who was recently selected as the new president of the Police and Fire Commission here in Wausau. Mr. Harris will present Chief Barteck with his helmet shield. For those not in the fire service, let me give you a quick lesson on the significance of the helmet shield, because I didn't know the significance prior to this ceremony. Firefighters' helmet colors define the different ranks on the fire ground. Firefighters and engineers wear black, lieutenants wear red, and chief officers wear white. Firefighters, engineers, and lieutenants wear their badge numbers on the shields. Chief officers are determined by the number of bugles they display. Bugles are a universal system of rank designation throughout the U.S. Fire Service. In the early days, fire officers would use bugles, shaped like megaphones, to amplify and broadcast orders on a fire scene. Today, the fire service uses radios, but clings to the bugle as an emblem of leadership. An officer's rank is designated by the number of bugles they display on their helmet shield. Battalion and division chiefs have 3 bugles, the deputy chief has 4 bugles, and the fire chief has 5 bugles. Mr. Harris, please present Chief Barteck with his chief's helmet shield.
Good evening, everyone. To have a few remarks just before. First, I want to say congratulations, Chief Barteck. Short passage to remember as you begin your journey. Often your tasks will be many and more than you think you can do. Often the road will be rugged and the hills insurmountable too. But always remember, the hills ahead are never as steep as they seem. And with faith in your heart, start upward and climb till you reach your dream. For nothing in life that is worthy is ever too hard to achieve if you have the courage to try it and you have the faith to believe. Now, one of the things that when Chief Barteck interviewed for the position, at the top of his resume, it says faith, integrity, and duty. 3 words that Chief Barteck used to describe his service, and I think is absolutely fitting in describing Chief Barteck. Besides his numerous accolades that he's earned, he has the respect of his department and the city, and could not be more perfect for this position. Well, he's also a freaking Boy Scout, if that tells you anything. I knew then we were in good hands. His passion to encourage, empower, mentor, and inspire and give hope to others is shown every day in the work he does. But in addition to his long career in service in the fire department, he is also a dedicated and involved member of this community. His community involvement includes the Boys and Girls Club, Salvation Army, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, just to name a few. He is also active in his church at Christian Life Fellowship. I think one of Chief Barteck's greatest roles, though, as he'll probably tell you, is as husband and father. And it is, without a doubt, one of the greatest roles that he serves. Truly, we are blessed to have such great leadership in Chief Barteck, who will be and is a strong leader, who has never been afraid to step up. His leadership, tenacity, years of service, and tireless efforts have both strengthened and made a significant and lasting positive impact on our community. He not only exhibits courage under fire, he literally saves lives. We should all be very proud that Bob Barteck is our chief. I am also grateful to him for all his hard work, service, and commitment to this community and to our future. It is an honor for me to be here and have been a part of this process and selection process, and to be with you all here today to present Chief Barteck with a helmet. He is truly a remarkable leader, and I thank him for his service, and I congratulate him today.
He says, "Are we to me?" I guess so. Yeah, we promised to keep this under an hour, and we're pretty close, so you can't go too long, though. He didn't prepare any remarks, so I don't know how this is going to go. But it is my privilege and my distinct honor to introduce my friend and the new fire chief here in Wausau, Bob Barteck.
I always like to surprise people, and I never have prepared remarks until tonight. I do have prepared remarks. As Ben and I talked about a dozen times today about the ceremony, I said, I'll probably get to the podium and ignore my prepared remarks or just toss them to the side, but I think they'll help guide me here, and I know you've been here for a while, and I'll try to keep my statements brief. I just find myself at this moment incredibly humbled and honored. This panel that spoke here today, leader, 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 leader. And to have each of those leaders lift me up is incredibly humbling, because I look at each of them and find characteristics that I admire and that I want to model. And actually, I'm off the script already here, so I might as well push it to the side. Earlier in the evening, Tom Winkler and Kurt Pluke walked in early, and I was standing talking to them, and I thanked them as I got to thank now Mitch Waite and Tom Hansen sitting behind them, and your names are all here in my prepared remarks. And it is, leaders do not just become leaders. You become leaders because individuals have invested in you throughout your career. And every one of the leaders in this room that have invested in me have made an indelible mark, have been a puzzle piece that has put the puzzle together for me. And every rank in the fire service, it's so amazing, this paramilitary organization, because every rank, as we become firefighters, we prepare to become engineers. As we become EMT basics, we prepare to become EMT paramedics. And onward and upward. As we're lieutenants, we're preparing for the job of battalion chief. Battalion chief, we're preparing to be the deputy chief. As a deputy chief, we're preparing to be the fire chief. Now what do I do as the fire chief? Because I've always been preparing to be the leader that is above me, investing in myself, investing in those around me, trying to understand what I would do in that position to best serve. And I find myself here humbled and looking at this great group of Wausau firefighters that we have, so many leaders up and down the entire organization, no matter the rank. And now my job is to invest in you. When I was on the street, I loved being a paramedic. I loved that job. And you've got to own it. You guys know it. You're grinding it out every day, multiple calls, back-to-back to calls through the night. You go home in the morning exhausted. Some of the calls seem mundane after years, but every one of those is an opportunity to make a difference. And every time I arrived at a patient's side, I wanted to make a difference. As Malin said, make a change in their life, not just serve them, but connect with them and be an agent of change in their life. And every time, they got the best that I could give them in that moment. And I now am serving those who are serving the community. I don't get to go out on calls and put my hands on patients and be that healer, but I can serve you as the members of the Wausau Fire Department. We have an amazing department that just went through a catastrophic, major organizational cultural change under Chief Kajawa's leadership. And unfortunately, she sent her condolences that she couldn't be here tonight, and she's the reason that the department is in such excellent condition as I take over command of it today, is because she invested her heart, soul, blood, tears, everything that she was for 7 years in the department and the members of it and the community itself. Continuous quality improvement. She had this great saying that she said it frequently, that we're on a path to organizational excellence with a utopic type atmosphere. And yes, it's unachievable, but that's fine, because as long as we keep striving to get there, it's the path that counts. It's the job as it lays out in front of us that really makes us the organization that we are. You know, organizational culture is not an easy thing to understand and diagnose, and as a leader to try to come in and improve, but yet she got it, and it was hard work. It was hard work. And I was pleasured. I sat in awe next to her for 2 years, taking in as much as I could in leadership lessons. And now I can turn around and try to pour that into our new Deputy Chief, Jeremy Kopp, and all the leaders underneath you. You know, tomorrow morning I've got one of the biggest privileges that you get as a chief. We've got 3 of our new firefighters that are just finishing their 1-year probationary period coming into the chief's office for 7:30 tomorrow morning, and we're doing a book report. They're assigned 2 books when they start, and leadership books. My favorite is Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, written in 1927, but has got timeless gems of leadership throughout that book. And we're going to sit down as 1-year employees and talk about leadership and how they are leaders in the organization. We have an example of it going on in this room right now. We got James Truckee. What is it, James? 2 days on shift now? Yep, 2nd day on shift. James came to us from Green Bay, and we're proud to get him, proud to have him here. And sitting next to him is Tyler Becker. I watched Tyler today making some investments in him. Yeah, Tyler's rolling his eyes. You hate being called out, but guess what? You're a leader too, Tyler. And you're a servant too. Tyler served in the military before he came to us, and I'm proud of him. And to watch him invest in making James the best version that he can be, as everyone else is. This is just a singular example. My role is easy. I just have to try to keep that flywheel, that big weighted flywheel that Chief Kajawa got spinning in a positive organizational direction, keep moving that way. So, a few people I really wanted to thank tonight, and I'm gonna get to that and wind down here. First, I want to thank the Police and Fire Commission under Michael Loy's leadership as the chair. Michael's an amazing leader, and he made some remarks about their decision to go with a nationwide search. While I was obviously wanted to be a strong internal candidate, we also had another internal candidate. And they had the wisdom to seek nationally, because it's not what's just best for an individual in the department, it's what's best for the community. And your decision went right into my 4-step decision-making process. And you guys from Rapids have probably grounded into you until you could choke on it. And the guys from Wausau are just catching on to it. I say it all the time. I have a simple 4-step decision-making process for every decision that comes across my desk. And it's what first is best for the community, then what's best for the organization, what's best for the crew or the group inside that, and lastly, what's best for the individual. Because if we invest in what's best for the community over what's best for us as an individuals, our organization serves our mission and our values in the community. And so, when you said that we're going to make a nationwide search, you fell right in. It's what's best for the community. And I didn't want to be the best candidate inside a small pool. I wanted to be the best candidate inside, all comers, anyone who wanted it. So thank you. Mayor Rosenberg has been amazing through the transition. When Chief Kajawa, she referenced that conversation, the first time I met her was in a conversation with Chief Kajawa and Jared Thompson and I had. The first thing out of her mouth to us was, what can I do to support the fire department? How can I help you? What do you need? What can I do as mayor to help you? It wasn't about her, it was about us. She was putting the organization, the community, ahead of individuals. She put us ahead of her own needs or wants and sought to serve us. And she's busy because she's doing that all over this community, and she's been an amazing mayor. There go the boys. Be safe, guys. Boys and girls, sorry, Stephanie's working. We've got one female firefighter right now. We're hoping to add more to the ranks. So other thanks that I want to give, Mayor Rosenberg, I mentioned you, Tony Vanderboom in the HR department, my dear friend, and now co-department head leading public safety between Ben Bliven and myself. We've not just forged a great professional relationship, but a personal relationship also. He had some really kind words to say about me, and I could sit here for a half hour and talk about his leadership abilities. I've got notes of stuff that I've taken from our conversations before, quotes that I've written. I learn from this guy every conversation I sit down with him. And I think together we can really help prepare this community to be resilient no matter what the tragedy that lays forth. I know that you had some help in planning this event. Susan Lang is somewhere. Jean, we've got Mindy Walker in the back helping with all this setup this tonight. What a beautiful ceremony. I'm honored to have to be at the center point of this, but I really wanted to turn my remarks not to myself, but about the organization and the community. This is where I get teary and I look at my family. You know, I watch my dad running out the door, serve the community. He's still doing it. I think it's time to retire, Dad. It doesn't stop being fun. So 46, I misquoted in that speech that Michael talked about. I said, I think my dad's been serving one with you for 50 years. I was quickly corrected. It's only 46. 1976, he joined the department there. But obviously, I'm incredibly proud of him, and that left an indelible mark, not just on me, but my brother. My brother John and his beautiful wife Jeanette drove here from La Crosse. John's a servant also, working for Gunderson Hospital, and he does some amazing things. You want to talk about a guy that really does some neat stuff, and he's so humble. He never talks about it, but he really serves his patients so well. Of course, we've got my son Andrew here, and his wife Abby. My daughter Jessica's in New Mexico right now. She's working for the Boy Scouts this summer. She'll hopefully maybe watch this video. I wish she could have been here for this moment. But you know, I was raised in, my brother and I were raised in the 70s in Owen Withy, you know, before the internet came around. It was like growing up in a Norman Rockwell painting. And there was nothing that was unachievable to us, and everything was, you know, that's what it's all about right now. It's occurring, right? So they're running somewhere to serve some people that are in need, wherever this is occurring, and I didn't look to see what's going on. But there's somebody having the worst moment of their life right now, and we've got 15 of Wausau's finest rushing to them to be at their best when somebody else is having their worst day, as Malin mentioned. So I've rambled on here for quite a while. I lastly want to thank my wife, Christine, my rock. She's a real leader. Nightly, she listens to me about whatever I might have to say, and stuff that I need to focus on, and every night she gives me counsel, she gives me advice. We pray together about decisions, which I should mention that when William mentioned that it was not just a job, it's a calling. You're exactly right. It was a calling for us. And when we prayed about the decision to leave everything I knew in Wisconsin Rapids, I was very comfortable there. I had been moved to the deputy chief rank. But I felt an itch to move, and we didn't know what it was. And when we prayed on it, Lord, just make me your hands and feet. It's what I pray every day, because it's what I truly believe in my heart. It was remarkable, the lantern light that led us here. And now I realize why in standing in this moment. And it's not to serve myself, but to serve this community and serve the men and women that protect it. So I stand here humbled. I'm sure I've left some people out. Looking at the room, there's all these great guys from Rapids. I got Chuck Peters and Jason Joling and Todd Forseer, outstanding leaders. You know, my great friend Tom Hansen, Tom Winkler, Kurt Pluke. Jim Schmidt, retired Marshfield Fire Chief's here. And I want to call out Tony Piontek. He'll want to call under the chair when I say this because he's kind of a shy guy, but he came over from Green Bay. Tony and I interned the 1992-93 school year in Oshkosh, and now he's a battalion chief in Green Bay, and I'm a chief here in Wausau. We've just reconnected our friendship after 25 years apart, and it's amazing the common lines that our careers have traveled. And so I appreciate you being here, Tony. That means a lot to me. And when you make chief in Green Bay, I'm going to be there for you. He's shaking his head. Yeah, battalion chief in Green Bay, that's a busy job. That's a big-time job. So all the aldermen and elected representatives that stepped out here, we got Miss Wisconsin in the back room if you want a photo with a beautiful woman back there. She's actually the daughter of the deputy chief from Wisconsin Rapids, if you didn't know that, bit of trivia. I'm truly thankful for everyone that's made the travels here to be here in this moment. Malin, your keynote address left no doubt why we invited you as the keynote. You're an incredible leader in Wisconsin and nationally in the fire service. Very proud to know you, and incredibly proud that you came here to speak at our event tonight. So with that, I'll step away. I'm sure I've left some people out. I'll catch up with you afterwards, and I just want to say thank you. And lastly, to this community, I will tell you that the Wausau Fire Department stands ready to meet your need no matter what it is. That we are in a forward-leaning posture to determine what not just the needs are today, but the future. The pandemic threw us a curveball, but the fire service met it head on. We didn't get to work from home. Quite the opposite. Our firefighter and paramedics were working in the people who were affected by COVID's homes. They're donning up on a daily basis to go out and serve the need. We did not ever predict that in my career, that we would be on the front lines of a worldwide pandemic, but I'm incredibly proud of how we responded to that. But we have to be on that forward-leaning posture in order to be ready for the next emerging threats that come to our way. We might be called the fire department, but we're really the all hazards responders to this community. And just rest assured that we're ready to meet those needs, that we're your department. If you want access to me or any of our members, you just give us a call, shoot us an email, and we're there for you. And I'm super excited to enter into this next chapter. I'm excited to have this event over with, and now tomorrow let's roll up the sleeves and get to work. Well, let's actually roll up the sleeves and get to work about the last month, but I got more coming. Get ready, Mayor. It's go time. So I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, and I'll step away. Thank you so much.
Could stand here all night and make him uncomfortable. So many of you here know Bob and know him pretty well, so it's been kind of fun to sit or stand and watch him squirm in his seat as everybody talks about him and says nice things. He's about as humble as you can get, and he doesn't like to be in that seat. And what he always tells people, I'm going to give a Bob Barteck quote, is when we raise up one person, we raise up the whole organization. And that's what we're doing tonight, is raising up the Wausau Fire Department, because it's an outstanding organization, partly because of the work of Chief Barteck, but also partly because of the work of Chief Kajawa and all of the men and women of the Wausau Fire Department. You guys are an outstanding organization. You serve this community so incredibly well, and I'm proud to work alongside with you. And it's kind of interesting because we have the chief salute, which is the last thing, and he talked too long, and now all the guys left. So it's kind of funny. But there's still some people here from the Wausau Fire Department, and so I'm going to give a closing here. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. It's real important that we raise up this organization and recognize the transition of leadership to Chief Barteck. We have one final thing, and that is the chief salute. Before we get to that, I just want to make sure that everybody knows as soon as the chief salute is over, that'll end the program, and we do have some refreshments in the back room, so we love everybody to stick around and talk and wish Bob well and congratulate him on this achievement and this position as the fire chief here in Wausau. With that, I'll give the floor to the staff of the Wausau Fire Department to end our ceremony with a salute to their new chief, Bob Barteck. Uniformed personnel, please rise for the chief's salute.
Firefighter.